The sole survivor, sole survivor of Vault 111 and the main character of Fallout 4. One day in the eerily perfect 1940s-style neighborhood of Sanctuary Hills, our main character is seen enjoying a regular day with their nuclear family, consisting of their spouse, their son, and their robot butler Codsworth. Okay, maybe not exactly the most typical family, but you get the point. Suddenly though, a knock at their door thrusts them into a feverish exchange with a man known only as the Vault-Tec representative. The man tells the family that due to the husband's previous service in the military, they're eligible for entry into the Vault-Tec company's nearby Fallout shelter, Vault 111. The protagonist agrees and signs their name on the entry form, and the man leaves. The couple shrug the exchange off as mostly unwarranted paranoia, but moments later the TV bursts into a newscast, which goes on to state that the world has gone into full-out nuclear war, and that many major cities in the United States had already been hit. Without thinking twice, the sole survivor's spouse grabbed their son, and the two take off for the vault. When they finally arrive at the vault, they push past the crowd, and end up seeing the Vault-Tec representative one last time. Ineligible for entry into the vault, but still pleading with the security to let him in. The two push past him and their other barred from entry neighbors, and head up to the vault door, only to inevitably see a bomb drop and a mushroom cloud slowly begin to grow in the distance. All appears to be lost for the residents of Sanctuary Hills, but just as a blast from the nuke is about to reach them, they're lowered into Vault 111 unharmed. Now safely in the vault, they're directed by Vault-Tec employees into a room full of what they call decontamination pods. They prompt everyone to enter the pods, and though somewhat hesitant at first, the protagonists and their family comply. The pods close, and before anyone can figure out what's happening, every resident of Vault 111 is put on ice. Though they didn't know it at the time, each of them had been a participant in an experimental vault which specialized in cryogenic freezing. Anyway, sometime later, the player character is jolted awake by a sudden tampering with the cryopod controls. Several people in hazmat suits, led by a strange bald man with a scar on his face, open the main character's spouse's pod and attempt to steal their son, Sean. The player's spouse tries to stop the man from taking their son, but are inevitably shot and the baby's taken away anyway. The group reseals the pod and begin to walk away, but before they leave, the bald man walks up to the sole survivor's pod and mutters that he or she is the group's insurance, whatever that means. Still fresh in shock from the horrific events they just witnessed, the sole survivor's quickly refrozen and the screen fades back to black. Finally though, sometime later, they're unfrozen and manage to escape their pod. They look around to find that they are literally the only survivor of the cryogenics experiment. This was through no flaw in the system though, as it turns out the other residents had died as a result of the bald man's group, tampering with the other pod's freezing controls. Still traumatized by the murder of their spouse and the kidnapping of their only son, the sole survivor pushes forward and manages to find a way out of the vault, and into the wasteland of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. With nowhere to go but out into the nuclear ruins that they once called home, the sole survivor sets out into the wasteland in search of answers and, most importantly, their baby son, Sean. But anyway, let's take a step back from the story for now. If you've played a Fallout game before, then you likely know that beyond the intro, each game mostly becomes an open-ended experience. And in the case of Fallout 4, the main story is even more malleable than ever before, so trying to shoehorn this video into covering a specific storyline of a specific playthrough just won't do us any good. Instead, let's take this time to go over the things we do know for sure about the sole survivor, as well as the traits that remain concrete about them throughout any branching paths the player might choose to take in the game. Now, like I said, you'd probably have a pretty hard time pinning down any one concrete description for the sole survivor. So to make things simpler for ourselves, let's instead think about what the canonical motivation for them to leave the vault and do the things they do throughout the game is. As Fallout 4 is a role-playing game, you can of course choose to act however you wish as the protagonist, but one thing remains a major factor to them, regardless of your choices, and that's their undying will to find their son, at least throughout the beginning of the story. Though it's not clear if their spouse dying is as much of a reason for them setting out, some dialogue options with some characters hint towards it, so it's safe to assume that it at least affects the sole survivor somehow. But let's not worry about the spouse right now, because the key player here is Sean, the sole survivor's son. His kidnapping is the main cause for their escape from the vault, and is the reason that they even prematurely rushed out into the wasteland in the first place. Though it can probably be argued that they didn't really have anywhere else to go anyway, since every other resident of the vault was dead. The important thing to remember here though is that the story was set into motion because of Sean and his sudden kidnapping. Anyway though, from this point on, the sole survivor's path is put in the hands of the player. They can do whatever they want out in the wasteland, and can more importantly treat anyone however they want, which kinda makes it hard for us to pin down a solid personality for the character. They can also choose from a range of different styles of gameplay and combat, and can partner with a number of different factions and companions, which can affect the way the entire story plays out. But one thing still always stays true. They set out into the world for their son, and they won't stop until they find him. Throughout the story though, the sole survivor also has to make some hard choices, which can put them at odds with both friends and factions, and can sometimes even make them seem like more of a villain than the hero of the story. But it always comes back to the one thing that's most important to them: finding their son. And you know what? Maybe that's really just the moral of Fallout 4 and the sole survivor's story overall. Maybe the games aren't a warning sign for war on Earth, or even just a simple parody of the nuclear-fearing culture of the Cold War era. Maybe it spans deeper than that. Even going back to Fallout 3, there's always been a constant which keeps coming up time and time again. Whether it be the father-son story of the sole survivor, or the son-father dynamic courtesy of the lone wanderer and his dad from Fallout 3. Around every corner, there's one thing that Fallout just keeps trying to tell us. Family trumps all. Not even just your biological family, but anyone you care about deeply enough to fight till the end for. The world may seem like a desolate, irradiated wasteland, and maybe in the case of Fallout, actually literally is, but there's always someone out there worth fighting for. And if you try hard enough, you'll eventually reach them. Literally, like in the Fallout series, or even just metaphorically. And I think that's really the best note I could end it on. So I guess that's about it. So if you enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a like. And if you want a notification to come up on your Pip-Boy every time I upload a new video, please be sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you have anything to yell at me about or suggestions for future topics or videos or anything like that, make sure you put that in the comments down below. Anyway, that's about it, so thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.
Hey, Codsworth.
Mr. Fuckface,